So it looks like I'm going live. I'm going to wait a few minutes here for a couple people to hang out, get on, get watching, get you. You can see the puppy for a little bit while we're waiting for a few people to get going. Then we're going to get going, talking about some self-love, a little honesty, all the good stuff. So this is Mr. Ollie. He's my pup, the coolest guy in the world. Huh. You gonna say hi? Say hi to everybody. All right. Come on, come on, come on. All right. We let little Ollie go, so you can check back in if you missed him. You can check back in, see a little later. We're gonna go ahead and get started a little bit, talking about my story, what I do, who I am, what I like to do, all the good stuff. So just a little bit, start out where I came from, how I became a part of WAG, how I found WAG initially. So I had gotten to CrossFit after college soccer. I was like looking for something that was super competitive, something I wanted to do that piqued my interest, and I saw the CrossFit Games and I was like, that looks pretty rad, I'll give it a shot. So I was like, okay, I'll go do it. And come to find out, as soccer players don't have the greatest of mobility. So that's been a process for about 2 years now. I've been doing CrossFit on and off, working through some of those mobility in my last few soccer seasons. So I'm back to doing CrossFit full time now. So that's initially how I got started into CrossFit, which ultimately led me to WAG. And funny enough, Camille is actually the one that I followed on Instagram. And she was the one that I wanted to see, that I saw when I saw her sign up. I was like, that's cool. Like, I know they're legit. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. Signed up, gave it about 4 solid months. I went 4 solid months, gave it my all. And by the end of that 4 months, I was like, this is really cool. I like nutrition. I like what I'm seeing. I would love to be able to help people. So I kept bugging Kate and was like, Kate, what do you know? Can you help me out here? Kept bugging her. And finally I was like, all right, I'm going to reach out to D. Reached out to D. Next thing you know, here I am on this side of things. So it's been really cool. It's been quite the experience, how I got into it. And then that's basically how I found it. My experience though with WAG initially was great. It was the coolest thing ever. I had, being in college when I started it, I was like, I knew the cost, and I was like, I can cut something out. I can cut something out that's going to allow me to commit to WAG full time. And I said, if I'm going to pay this much money, then I'm going to do it. And I did it. And I committed 100%. And I think during that 4-month span, I think I missed my macros one time. Okay, this was the initial 4 months. It's been a bit of a different story now. I've learned a lot more about macro counting and how that's not as sustainable as I would have thought. So I did it, and it was great. And now I've transitioned more into a maintenance phase, kind of working in back to a cutting phase, trying to lean up for the open a little bit. So during that 4 months, it was cool. It was amazing how quickly my body changed when I committed. And, I think Kate loved me for that because of the aspect of, like, every time I checked in, she was like, all right, cool, I like it. So there was nothing that was a whole lot said, but I learned a lot from her. She was always encouraging, always helping me out. So it was really cool. So I think my experience was super exciting. Granted, I had a lot of time to focus on nutrition because I was in school. I was like, didn't have a job, didn't have kids. All I was doing was working out, going to school, and doing nutrition. So it wasn't too bad. So it's a little different. So don't take my 4 months of perfection as anything that you can do, because for everybody it's different. So that was kind of my initial 4 months. Since then, it's been a different experience. I've learned a lot more about when are the times to be perfect, when are the times to be loose, how can you dial it in, all those things. So it's been a cool experience. I've learned a lot, and I'm always learning. That's the one thing I want you to remember, is we're constantly learning. And so when I signed up, what did I accomplish? Like, okay, so I had a client. He asked me this question today, and I think it's a great question. I wanted to address it on here. And he said, what is your end goal? And then what did you want to accomplish when you signed up? And the funny thing enough is in my initial questionnaire, and I think Kate probably still has it somewhere, I still have it somewhere, but it said all I wanted was a sitting down six pack. That's all I wanted. I wanted to be able to sit down, shirt off, have a six pack. Sounds dumb as can be, but that was what I wanted to do. I would say I accomplished that. Bit of a different story now. Not so much, but I'm working back to getting there. so so it's cool. But that was one of the things I wanted to accomplish. And I'm gonna get back there. Don't you worry. And then what is my end goal? What is my end goal with WAG? There is no end goal really, because I want to continue to expand my learning, continue to expand what I can do in CrossFit, and just constantly keep learning, because nutrition is so much more than nutrition and the numbers themselves. And so I want to use it as, what can I do in the community to help inspire somebody else to do something they love? And that was one thing that I was big on, is just doing something that I love. And if you do that and you do it every single day, you're never going to feel like you're working. And it sounds so dumb because people told me that all the time, but I was like, no way, whatever I do is going to be work. And I mean, I feel very fortunate to work with WAG, because the people I get to work with are some exceptional people, and they push me to be better, and every day it doesn't feel like work. So I would say my end goal is just to continuously get better. It'll never be great, but I'm striving for greatness as much as I can. So that's a little bit about me. Let's move into more of surrounding yourself with the people that make you better, because that is a very big piece in becoming a better athlete, becoming better at nutrition, and having just a happier lifestyle in general. And the reason for this is a lot of times when we get into nutrition, it's hard to be honest with our friends, our family, and all those. And the people who signed up during the holidays, you guys deserve a gold star, because it is very, very challenging to go over to Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, any of those holidays, and say, oh, hey, by the way, I'm tracking everything I'm eating, and everything you made, I want to know what's in it. It's really awkward, kind of one of those things that you're like, especially if you're going over to significant other's house and you're meeting their family for the first time, that is not what you want to come up with to start. But being honest with everybody and being open to saying, this is what I want to accomplish and this is how I'm going to accomplish it, is the best thing that you can do. Because if you try to hide, if I'm like, I'm going to go and I'm going to bring my scale and I'm going to take my plate of food and I'm going to go into the other room and try to measure it all out and go back to the dinner table, it's just not going to happen. There's just no way that's going to happen, or is it going to be sustainable? So what we should do instead is just say, if you're there and you're, hey, I don't want to be upfront this time, and the reason, because I'm not sure how they're going to react, I'm going to be mindful and I'm going to just try to pay attention to what I'm eating. I'm going to focus on my protein, and I'm going to let the starchy carbs and fats fall into place based on what I'm eating in my protein. And from there, then you can be honest with yourself at the end of the meal and say, how did I do? Did I accomplish everything I wanted to accomplish? Or was I 80%? If I was 80%, then you got to look at what can I improve on? And if improving on means, you know what, I should have told my family and just said, you know what, this is what I'm going to do, then great. If it means, hey, you know what, I could have brought my scale out to the table and that would have put me at 90% consistent or accuracy, then bring your scale out to the table and just own it. Just be proud of who you want to become, because you won't get there without being proud of that person. Just because if we're constantly stuck in the, I want to be there, but I don't want people to know, it's not very sustainable, because eventually somebody's going to notice and they're going to be like, well, how did you do this? And now it's a really awkward conversation. Whereas if I'm just open from the beginning and I'm just saying, hey, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. So every time that person sees you, they're going to keep you accountable. They're going to say, oh, hey, last time we talked, how's your nutrition thing going? It's fantastic. I'm down 10 pounds. As opposed to them saying, oh, hey, well, you're looking leaner. What's going on? You're like, oh, well, I've been counting my macros, I guess. And it creates this really awkward conversation. So just be proud of who you are, who you're becoming, because we are constantly striving to be the best person we can be. So when you look at the relationships and family who you surround yourself with, you've got basically the capacity to hold 150 meaningful relationships. So that's going to count friends, family, the people at the gym, people who aren't friends, Facebook friends, whatever you want to call it, you have 150 meaningful relationships. Okay, so when you look at your Facebook profile and you say, I've got 1,200 friends, are they really all friends? You know, you've got to narrow down to the meaningful friends. Just like in MySpace, when they a little throwback here, a little MySpace had your top 10. Okay, your top 10 friends, same thing here. So you're narrowing it down to the 150 meaningful relationships. Once you get to those 150, now you can say, on average, I spend about 90% of my time with 5 people. So you look at who are those 5 people. Could be your significant other, your parents, your buddies at the gym, um, your best friend from high school. You've got 5 of them. So now you've got to look and say, okay, I've got these 5 best friends. How do I when I surround myself with them? What do we accomplish? Are those 5 friends the ones who are going to say, hey, let's go to the bar and get 5 drinks? Or are those 5 friends the one who are like, oh, hey, let's go to the gym. I want to work out. Let's eat healthy. You know, so when you look at who you're surrounding yourself with, I want you to think of those 5 friends. Just because a lot of it is, if your friends are going to encourage you to go to the bar, it's going to make macro counting a little bit more challenging. Okay, because now you've got to be even more honest with your friends of like, hey, I'll go with you. I don't mind. I'm limiting myself to 2 drinks. And that comes with setting boundaries. So you want to set boundaries with your friends of like, I'd love to go because I don't want you to miss out on these social events. So you're going to go and you say, hey, I'm limiting myself to 2 drinks. Okay. That allows you to stay within your macros. But when your friends say, hey, have another, why don't you stay for another 3 hours? That's when you've got to decide, okay, what am I doing now? Do I say yes, give in and sacrifice my nutrition to be with my friends? Or do I just say, hey, I'm going to commit to my nutrition and I will. So if you commit to your nutrition and then you can tell your friends like, hey, look, this is just what I want to do. And this is who I want to become. And I can promise you by the end of it, those friends are going to be, if they're friends, they're going to be super, super proud of who you've become. And this brings me to one of my stories is when I started macro counting, I would go to the cafeteria at my college, and the first day, I was like, there is no way I'm bringing my scale to the table of 25 guys on the soccer team. I was like, I'll never hear the end of this. So what I did is I was like, I'm going to hide my scale. I'm going to put it under a napkin, and I'm just going to make it look like I spilt onto my napkin. So I did that. And people were looking at me like, what are you doing? What is, and I was finally like, all right, look, okay, here's my scale. I'm weighing my food. And they're like, you're crazy. What is wrong with you? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. I've tried a lot of things and nothing's ever worked. So if this is what it takes, I'm going to try it. And now you look back at all of those 25 guys that I surrounded myself with, they text me almost on a weekly basis of like, dang, we should have listened to you. That macro counting is serious. Can you help me out? You know, so there's that thing of like, people are quick to judge, but then they're also the first people to ask when they need help. So just remember that when somebody's giving you a hard time, just be like, hey, I appreciate your feedback, but just wait, give me 3 months. So just be proud of who you want to become, because without being proud of you, then you're not going to accomplish the best version of you. Let's see what we got here next. Right. This comes a lot of, which is really cool, when you talk about control. So there's a lot of things that go along with surrounding yourself with people who make you better. And those people oftentimes are going to put you in situations that you cannot control. Okay, it happens. It goes to social situations. You go to work meetings. You go to all these things that you cannot control. You have to be there. But the one thing you can do is you can control how you react to it, right? So if I'm like, my friend takes me, we're hanging out, and he's like, hey, let's go to Subway. And I'm like, well, shoot, I don't know if Subway's going to fit. I've got my meal in the fridge. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. And so on the way to Subway, you're typing in MyFitnessPal, trying to punch it all in. You find it. So now you're like, hey, I was able to take a situation that was out of my control, now is in my control because I took 3 minutes on the way to Subway to figure it out rather than sitting there like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? I'm panicking. So I want you not to stress about these situations and instead try to figure out what can't I control in this situation and what can I control. So you may not be able to control the situations you're put in, but you can control how you're going to react to them and how you're going to respond to your friends giving you a hard time, to MyFitnessPal giving you a hard time, because we know how hard MyFitnessPal can be sometimes when we go out. So if MyFitnessPal is like, hey, you can't find anything for Subway, don't freak out. Just, you can pull it together, say, okay, I'm getting a 6-inch sub. This sub may be from Jersey Mike's or, some other Subway, Jimmy John's or something, but at least bread is bread. It might be different density, it might be weigh a bit different, but you're a lot closer than you would be if you just said, screw it, I can't control this situation, I'll just email my coach and say, hey, couldn't do it. So find little things that you can control. So if you can't find the exact thing in MyFitnessPal, then control every piece of what goes in. Okay, it looks like 3 ounces of meat. Okay, well, you know what? If I weighed it out, it was 5 ounces. It doesn't really matter. The thing that matters is that you were close and that you gave an effort. Because next time you do it, you're going to be a lot better at doing it. Okay, so just constantly work on getting better. And that if something goes out of your control, just control how you react and how you can learn from it. So you look back again and say, you know what? I controlled about 80% of it. What could I have done to make it better? And we just keep working at that. So it's just a constant battle of getting better. And one of these things that you can work on, a good exercise that you can do, is write down every single thing right now that you can't, or that's going wrong in your life. So that could be, hey, my car broke down, job life is terrible, I'm not doing well with my nutrition, training's just terrible, anything. I went to the grocery store and they were out of corn. Doesn't matter. Okay, so any little thing that feels that's causing you any stress, write it down on a piece of paper and then look next to it and write down, can I control it? And if you can control it, then let's come up with a game plan on how to control it. If you write down next to it, hey, I can't control this, then let's move on. Okay, so forget that thing that's causing you stress and move on because you can't control it. So that's a super cool exercise that you can use to help with those situations, because a lot of times we find ourselves on Monday, something comes up that on Friday you're going to have all kinds of stress, so you're panicking this whole time. So Monday through Thursday you're in a panic, and then you get to Friday and you realize, oh, well, it ended up not being as bad as I had thought. Well, what happened to Monday through Thursday? You wasted those days worrying about what was going to happen on Friday, and when you got to Friday, it didn't matter. So now you're looking back like, shoot, I could have been on point more on those last 4 days, but now because I wasn't, here I am on Friday worrying about a situation that I can't control. So that's just a little bit about being honest with yourself, surrounding yourself with the people who are going to make you better. Don't be afraid to put yourself in a situation where your 5 close friends are better than you. Okay, it's very humbling, but you can also know that if they're better, you're going to learn something from them and you can get better. Okay, so just because somebody or surrounded by you is better, don't worry about it. You can get better alongside with them. So now this brings me to pushing through the tough days. Okay, so we all have tough days. I don't care if you're just starting. If you saw the Facebook thread of the people who have been here more than 6 months, there are like 230 comments of people who've been here longer than 6 months. That's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. So if you haven't seen that yet, go check that out. And that just shows you the consistency over time is going to get you to the results that you want. So with that, I can guarantee you every single one of them has struggled. There's been a moment during their journey they've struggled. And so a lot of it is knowing that, hey, Saturday night didn't go as planned. Again, when you wake up Sunday, it's a new day. It does not matter what happened the day before, whether it was great, whether it was bad. Sunday is a new day. So wake up with the mentality of, you know what? I'm going to control this day and I'm going to go crush it. I'm going to go eat every single macro I can to hit my numbers. I'm going to be happy as can be because I know that for every bad day I have, I'm going to have 4 good days. Okay, so if that's what we can work on, then perfect. And this is all about you being the most perfect version that you can be. Okay, so if that means for me, my perfect version was hitting my macros every single day for 3 years, then that's my version of perfect. But for you, because you have a life outside of nutrition, outside of training, you've got kids, you've got all these events, then look at what you can control in that life to how perfect can I be. Okay, and we can work with that. So um, waking up and knowing it's a new day is a big piece to moving on from those tough days. Also, learning to forgive yourself because you're going to make mistakes. Macros are going to be difficult. So just forgive yourself. Say, hey, you know what? That ice cream I had last night put me over the edge. I'm going to forgive. I'm going to say, you know what? It wasn't the best decision, but I'm going to move on. I'm going to wake up, and today is a new day, and you forget about it. And I promise if you rock that day, you won't even remember the night before that you went over until you check in, and then you have to explain, hey, I went over. But that's okay. Being honest with yourself and forgiving yourself is another key piece to moving on. And then the other thing is always look at the end of the day if a day didn't work out, always look back and say, what could I have done better? Okay, there's got to be something in that day that you could have done better. And it could be something super minor, like, hey, I've got, 3/4 a gallon of water in. I could have gotten a gallon had I started earlier in the day. Okay, so something as minor as that goes a long way. So we want to look at those small changes because those small changes can make a big, big difference. Let's see. And then if at the end of a bad day you say, hey, look, I gave my 100%. I gave everything I could to rocking that day and it didn't work out, then it didn't work out. And we forgive and we forget and we move on. Okay? So there's going to be those days, and I don't want you to stress about it because for every day we spend stressing about that day, it affects another day. So if we can forgive on that day and make the next 5 days great, then it won't matter. So just continue to learn from those bad days, and it's going to get better. And then the other big thing, this is huge. There's 2 tips I'm going to give you for exercises, just like the last one. Okay, always go to bed with a positive thought. So if that means you're going to bed and you're like, I only get 5 hours of sleep, I'm going to be so tired when I wake up. When you wake up, you're going to be really tired. Okay, so you're setting yourself up for failure. If you go to bed and say, hey, I've only got 5 hours of sleep, but tomorrow I'm excited because I've got a presentation at 9 a.m. that I've got to get up early for, and I'm super excited for it. So you go to bed with this positive thought of I'm going to crush my next day. You're going to wake up in a much, much better mood. Okay, so then when you wake up, I want you to journal one thing that you love about yourself. So this personal love that we're talking about for the month of February, this is huge. Okay, so I want you to write one thing down that you love about yourself. So I wake up, I weigh myself, and I'm like, I love my hair. My hair, that's it. I love it. And all of a sudden, you're going to realize how difficult that task is. Okay, so it's really, really challenging sometimes to tell ourselves that we love something about us. It's easy to look at that scale and say, that scale didn't tell me what I wanted to see, and so now I'm mad. Okay, but it doesn't matter because the non-scale victories are some of the best victories. So write down that one thing that you love about you, and then write down one thing that will make today great. So if let's say I wake up and I write down, I love my hair, and then I weigh myself, and the scale is just totally negative. So then I'm like, what am I going to write down? What will make today great? And today's going to be great if I go to train and I give it my all. I set my phone, leave my phone in the car, I go into train, and I'm fully focused on training. That will make today great. Okay, so that's going to be one task and then you can look back on your log for the week and say, wow, look at all these things that I accomplished without even knowing that I accomplished them. Okay, so it's good to look back and always test yourself and ask yourself, how did I do? And it's even a good task to give yourself an award at the end of the day. You say, hey, I'm going to give myself a gold star for today because I did everything I wanted to accomplish, and it was a great day. And then the next day, it was an okay day, so you're like, you know what? Today's a silver star. What could I have done that could have been better? And tomorrow, you're going to make that better. So that way, by the end of it, you've got 7 straight days of gold stars. I like it. And then another thing you can add in that journal, and this is big in helping you be more honest with yourself is writing down 3 things that you're grateful for. Okay, so a lot of times we forget the things in life that we're really grateful for, and you'll start to realize how amazing your life is when you start to be thankful for all those things that you have. Okay, so always look to those things that you're grateful for. And then let's see. So start gathering up those questions because I've got like 2 more bullets and then we're going to get into some questions. So if you want to ask me anything like, what did I have to eat before this? Be ready. I had Chipotle, so I've already answered that question, so it doesn't matter. That one's off the board. Find something that you want to ask, and then we'll get going on that. So 2 quick things to finish up. If you're just starting out in macro counting in general, or even you're in week 52, okay, take one day at a time. We can't worry about what's going to happen on Friday without going Monday through Thursday. So take Monday as it is. Do the best you can on Monday. Wake up on Tuesday. It's a new day. Do the best you can on Tuesday. Come Friday, now you've put together 5 straight days of great days. Okay, so work on focusing on every day and being present in all of those days leading up to the day that's going to be that you feel is going to be the most stressful or the hardest day for you that week. And then this is something I heard that I think is really cool because a lot of times we get so fixed on our goals and destinations that we don't realize the journey is the greatest gift. Okay, so I'm focusing. I want to be famous someday, so I'm focused. I'm doing everything I can to be famous. All of a sudden, I get there and I'm famous, and it's not as great as I had thought. But look at all the things I accomplished on the road there. Okay, so I met all these great people. I've traveled the world, and I've done all these cool things leading up to getting to my end result of being famous. So now you look at it in terms of nutrition. You say, I'm so focused in 3 months of being 180 pounds, and I'm 200 pounds right now, that those 12 weeks that you let slide by trying to get to that end goal, and you realize like, wow, okay, I PR'd my snatch in between there. I ran a 5K. I've trained for a marathon. You know, I biked 300 miles in that 12 weeks. You look at all these little things that were successes along the way that you forgot about because you were so fixated on getting to 180 pounds. So really try to focus on all those things that every week that you can be grateful for and all those things that you accomplished on your road to getting to that end result. And it's never an end result. Even when you think, hey, 180 is the desired weight I want to be, you're going to get there or you may not get there and realize, hey, it's not all that it's cracked up to be. Okay, I did the same thing. I told Kate, I was like, I want to be 180 pounds. And I got leaner and leaner and leaner, and I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to get there. And I think maybe one time we got there, but there was no way that I could have ever maintained that because it was not the ideal weight for me. I wasn't able to train as well as I had hoped. I wasn't on the macros that I had hoped. So finding that desired weight and balancing it with an actual weight is more important than trying to focus on being a certain poundage because that's what we think. I'm going to turn on this light here. Hopefully get some more light. Let's see. Maybe no light. Yeah, there we go. We got light. All right. Sorry, it's getting a little dark here in Denver. So let's go ahead and go into some questions here. Feel free to ask whatever. If you want to ask about any of the things we talked about, great. If you want to just move on and ask something just completely random, I'm all for it. So we'll give like a good 5 minutes or so on that. And yeah, thank you guys all for tuning in. It's been fantastic. It's been kind of awkward. I like talking to walls and I can talk all day long. So talking to myself has been quite an experience. But thank you guys all for listening. So if you have any questions, please let me know. No questions. Maybe any questions? If you're not on Seismic yet, don't worry. You're going to be there soon. I'm sure you've seen a million things on the Facebook page about Seismic. We're getting you there soon. It's great. It's fantastic. You'll be there. Again, part of that journey. Don't worry about the end result of getting to Seismic. Just focus on you during the week, and then we'll get you to Seismic when it's your time. All right, anybody have any questions? No questions? Nothing? Give you guys a few more minutes here to ask some questions. We'll see what's going on. Daniel, I love your, I weigh my dog's food as well. Got to keep those dog macros on point. Got to get those dogs growing big and strong. Hey, I'm drinking that Kill Cliff. Yeah, like that. That orange Kill Cliff because my macros on this are zero point 0.5 grams of fat and 3 carbs. So little carbonation keeping me full while I'm waiting to go to dinner. All right, any other questions? All right, if you have any questions, feel free. You can leave them in the comments. I'll get to them later. This Facebook Live will be up, and I'll certainly be getting to those questions if anybody has any. But certainly this month of February, obviously we have Valentine's Day coming up. Focus on loving you, okay? It's most important that you love yourself before we go on. Oh, here we go, Edgar. Let's see what we got here. So ideally, we want to count our protein prior to cooking. Okay, so the reason for a lot of things change when you cook it, weight change, water changes, all that. The nutrients is all in the raw meat there. So if we can get to if you can weigh it raw, that is the most ideal situation we have. If we are not able to weigh it raw, make sure when you enter it into MyFitnessPal, let's say you're cooking chicken, enter it as chicken cooked into the search bar so you can find an accurate measure, because since the weight changes, if you enter that cooked weight as raw, it's going to change a lot of things and it's going to cause you to be off on your macros. And a little change like that, being off on your macros because you weighed cooked protein and entered it as raw, could be the reason that A, you're not seeing the results that you want, or B, that when you get leaner and you really, really need to make sure those macros are on point, that could be holding you back. So definitely if you can, raw is always better, but if you can't, then just make sure you put it in as cooked in the entry, and you'll be on point with that. Jeremy asks, if you train first thing in the morning, when should train fasted and when should you eat prior? Okay, so this one's an interesting question. For those people who work out at 5 a.m., more power to you. That is very, very impressive. I know, Kelsey, if you're still watching, you train at 5:30 a.m., and that is the craziest thing ever. But if you have to train that early, try to get something super small into you. So if that means you can't get 30% of your carbs in before because nobody's going to wake up at 3:30 a.m., sleep is a lot more important. So just try to get something quick digesting carbs, something like a banana. If you could get like a banana and peanut butter on your way in, half a banana, that would be super ideal. Something that's going to digest quick, not sit in your stomach, because that's going to weigh you down while you're working out. And then if it changes to where it's like 8 a.m. and now you have the flexibility of, hey, I train at 8 a.m., I can get up at 7. Now you've got more flexibility to get a little bit more food in you. Now there are going to be some situations where people would rather train fasted. It's certainly not ideal in the aspect of performance being number one, but it's going to happen. Okay, so if you can get some BCAAs in you, that would be a good little something that will hold you over during your training session. But something, just getting even the smallest amount of food in you before will make a big difference. So just try to get something. And then if you wake up a little later and you train a little later, then make sure you're working on trying to get as many carbs in before as you can. Carbs and protein in that aspect. Daniel asks, what about frozen chicken? So on frozen chicken, I believe that the nutrition facts on the back are all based on it frozen. So unless it's whatever it comes in. So if the bag comes frozen, then the macros are weighed out for that frozen chicken. If you buy a bag that's unfrozen and you put it in the freezer, now you're gonna have to wait till it thaws out to make sure it's most accurate. Okay, so if it's if you go to Costco, you go to Sam's Club, whatever, and you get a big bag of frozen chicken, um, then get that and you can weigh that frozen. I do that a lot with the little Foster Farms already cooked chicken strips that I'll eat when I'm low on protein. And those are frozen. So you just weigh them frozen. But if it comes unfrozen, make sure that you thaw it out after you've frozen it. That's a great question. I like that. Justin asks, what are your everyday favorite go-to foods? Every single morning is an egg white omelet with turkey sausage crumbles, some onion, and a Kodiak cake waffle. Okay, so that's morning. I like to eat the same thing every single day. So I eat that for the morning. Pre-workout is always a PB&J. I love PB&Js, so I get a PB&J and then some fruit, maybe something else I have around, or yogurt. And then after workouts, again, another sandwich. I love my sandwiches. And then for dinner, I just keep it super simple. So really my go-to foods are your basics: chicken, Kodiak cake waffles, egg white omelets, and PB&Js. Those are my 4 staples in my diet. It's really boring, but I like it. So it works for me. Daniel asks, how do I cut it frozen? My man, you're going to have to get a big knife. Okay, so butcher knife that thing. The other thing you can do is quickly thaw that out and put it in as a different entry into MyFitnessPal. Obviously, you won't go off that bag, but you can go off something else that would be a raw chicken breast that's unfrozen, and you can just thaw it out real quick and go off of that entry in MyFitnessPal. That's going to be your best options. Otherwise, you're going to have to take it out back with an axe and chop it, because those frozen chicken breasts they're tough. All right, anybody got any other questions? I love these questions. These are fantastic. PB&J for life. Yes, Justin, if you can find a way to make a beautiful picture of a PB&J, you'll be my hero. I don't know how you would do it, but it would be amazing. All right, let's see what we got. Going on, Edgar says, I'm going on a 7-day cruise. I plan to work out every day. How would you keep track of your macros if you were in my shoes? Okay, so I don't know I've never been on a cruise. Now, I get a lot of this question with going to Mexico. I don't know if the cruise has buffets, but if they do, that is the most ideal situation, because in a buffet, you have the opportunity to pick what you actually want. So you can get your fruit, you can get your salad, you can get a meat source. Obviously, you don't know 100% what they cooked it in, but at least you have a bit more control on how you build your plate. So on that, I would focus a lot on building your plate to where you have 1/4 of your plate as a lean protein source, 1/4 of your plate as a starch carb, and then the other half of your plate as vegetables. Okay, so that's going to keep you keep you closely on track as best you can. And then let's see what in terms of fat, definitely try to watch your fat. So if you get a salad, keep it light on the dressing. If you can't go to a buffet, then just make sure you always ask for things on the side. Don't be afraid to ask for things on the side, for things to be grilled. Remember, the customer is always right. So these people, 90% of restaurants will work with you. There are a few that say no modifications whatsoever. You can bet I'm out on going to a restaurant like that. But for the most part, just try to do the best you can. Okay, so if you get there and there's a steak dinner, then, and hey, they don't have it on the cruise, but I go to Texas Roadhouse a lot and they have steak, try to go off of that. Okay, so just try to do the best you can. And I mean, I'm sure you will do a lot better than you think you will if you really focus on getting your protein intake and watching your starchy carbs and your fats. Okay, so eat a lot of vegetables. And then the other thing, wear your sunscreen. Don't forget your sunscreen. Because your coach doesn't want to see a check-in with you sunburned as can be. That's not good. Jeremy asks, what supplements do you recommend considering when everything else is on point. I am a huge advocate for real food. Okay, so supplements are great, but they are supplements. Okay, so they're not something we should go to if we can have the opportunity to eat. Um, so definitely try to focus on that, getting real food. Real food's going to get you there as best you can. Um, and then in terms of supplements, obviously vitamin D is going to be huge. Your fish oil is going to be huge. Um, but other than those two, I would really focus, maybe even BCAs. Okay, BCAs could be in there as well. Um, but protein powder, carb powder, all that stuff, I would really rather you eat a chicken breast or some sort of meat, or even if meat is not your thing, find a way to eat real food over a supplement because you're going to get more of the little nutrients out of that. But always focus on real food; it won't let you down. Justin, I can't wait to see that photo. I'm so stoked to see that. I've seen some of those other photos you do, but PB and J would make it'd make me so excited. All right, guys. Well, I think unless there's any questions peeping up, otherwise we're gonna go ahead. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. This has been quite the experience. You guys all rock. Um, this is